It's been a very difficult day. I watched the Levaya this morning of Mori VeRabi, Aharon Lichtenstien. The Levaya was at 3 o'clock in the morning in Toronto. So I stayed from about 12 o'clock till 2 o'clock. I was reviewing some of his shiurim. And 2 o'clock, I'm just not going to make it. And I figured the first few minutes, who knows if it'll start on time. So, but this morning, it was online almost instantaneously afterwards. The Levaya was over 3.5 hours. It's already online. I would manage to watch almost the first hour and a bit already. At the beginning, they recited Tehillim, and then Rav Moshe spoke, and then Rav Moshe's older brother, which people don't know about, Rav Yitzchak, who lives in America, spoke afterwards. So that's what I'm in the middle of, Rav Yitzchak's hesped. I don't know how many of you knew him. Some of you knew him. Many of you might have been in the yeshiva. He really wasn't his true self. No question about it. Many of you had Rabbi and Maramim, especially Yeshivat HaKotel, who all were his Talmidim. And what's amazing, and the theme that really resonated from everything that I've been listening to, and what I was able to see myself, was his incredible greatness in Torah was unparalleled. His unique character and his midot was just uncanny. He was famous, and you guys don't even know what this is. Payphone? I asked my son today if he knew what a payphone was. He wasn't sure he knew what a payphone was. My 9-year-old, I couldn't believe it. But the payphones outside the yeshiva, when they would ring, so in the olden days, when you had payphones by yeshiva, so it was quite a tircha. Why? Because you'd answer the payphone, they'd ask to speak to Ruvain. Go find Ruvain, right? Like, it was a big yeshiva, it was in the Bet Midrash, it was in the dorm. So many people would, not hear the phone ring, when they'd walk by it, because it was Rav Aharon Lichtenstien felt that it was a chiyuv. Someone wants to speak to somebody, you have to answer the phone. So he would pick up and always answer the phone, and he would say, Midaber, Aharon, right? And the person, unless they knew, would think that some guy named Aharon just picked up the phone. So, and he would go and he'd find the person, and he'd find someone to find the person. It was just, but that's what he was. When the yeshiva first opened, they didn't have enough chairs. There's a few famous stories everyone talks about. They didn't have enough chairs, both in the Charachal and in the Beis Medrash. So everyone knew that about a third of the people would have to take their chair from the Beis Medrash and bring it into the Charachal. And then when the meal was over, a third of the people would take their chair from the Charachal and bring the Beis Medrash. He would always bring his chair. And when people would ask him, Rosh Hashiva, why are you bringing your chair? He goes, no. He felt it didn't occur to him that it was beneath his kavod. Like, it didn't even dawn on him that a Rosh Hashiva doesn't do such a thing. The stories of him handing out on Milchemet Lebanon, he handed out toilet paper to the guys by the exit of the yeshiva before they went on the buses to go up north to the army. He handed out toilet paper to the guys to make sure they had toilet paper when they would be fighting in Lebanon. Or the story was that the first few years of the yeshiva, so he didn't have a beard, right? So guys would come to the yeshiva, and one guy didn't know where the dorm was. So he asked the person who was next to him, asked him, Aharon Lichtenstien, where's, Binyan Tet, right? He says, I'll show you where it is. And he grabbed the guy's bag and carried it for him to the dorm. When the kids looked so Aharon Lichtenstien carrying the guy's luggage, carrying his bags to his dorm room. And people were going, they said, what do you mean? Rosh Hashiva is taking someone's baggage and luggage to his room? And he didn't do it because he wanted to teach a lesson. He just did it because he knew it was the right thing to do. That's just the type of person he was. They say he was at Shacharit. I heard Rav Kevi Tergen, Reuven Tergen said he saw him at Shacharit the day before. They davened together. He davened with the same minyan in a lunch food. Rav Aharon moved to lunch food about 11 years ago when he wasn't feeling, so he left Yerushalayim. And in Yerushalayim, he davened at the Shtiblach. With the Shtiblach, he davened there regularly. He never missed minyan almost for anything. Even when he was really sick, he always managed to catch Tefillah B'tzibur. And his shiurim were very reminiscent of his father-in-law's. He didn't understand the guys can't focus. It couldn't die. He wouldn't die on him. I remember I would sit in his shir klali. It was very difficult to pay attention. It was very difficult. After 2.5 hours, he got very, very tired. And for him, he was just starting. Like Yom Kippur night, he would just give a shir the whole night until no one was left in the Beis Medrash. And his wife Tova would call the guys and say, okay, he's not feeling so well. By 12 o'clock, last 3 people would just get up and leave because it's just too difficult for him. And first, I just heard when he first came to the yeshiva, so he gives shir for 3.5 hours, and people just couldn't handle it. It was just too long. That's what he was used to from Rav Soloveitchik. So he gave shir 3.5 hours, or if it was lunchtime, he wouldn't stop giving shir if it was lunchtime. He'd continue, and if lunch just started and you didn't finish, it didn't dawn on him. That's just the type of person he was. He lived in a different world, but he lived very much in this world, and which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But that was just him. And just the impact that he had in a very different sense. The last time, and I'll end with this, he spoke for JLIC a couple of years ago when he was in Toronto. And there's a program of Shar Shemayim, and so he asked him, could he give a shir to the guys afterwards? So of course he said yes. He started the shir, 11:15 at night. It was very, very late. And he just kept on going, and he gave it on it was Shvras Omer time. It was a little bit later. It was between Lag Bomer and Shavuot. I don't remember the exact time of year. He spoke about, Zavachim and Menachos Shvras Omer. And I'm looking around the room, and maybe 2 or 3 people are paying attention. The room was packed, because of course everyone heard he was giving another shir, so of course everyone came. And that's just the type of person he was. This incredible sense of energy and mission and purpose and intent in everything he did. He didn't walk slowly. He didn't know what I meant by walk slowly. He was always in a rush. He walked quickly to everything that he did, with just tremendous amount of intent and purpose and mission in his being. Really just an amazing person, and really his greatness isn't even his Torah, which is pretty amazing considering the type of Torah giant he was, but really was his sense of character and personality. We've lost a giant really in our midst, but he left thousands and thousands and thousands of Talmidim who really are across the world, across the entire world, very, very similar to his father-in-law. In many ways. So the world's a little bit darker today, and we have to. It's worthwhile. I sent an email out late last night on people's side, a couple of links to a couple of his shiurim and a couple of his sichot. I brought a couple of his books that were published in the past few years. It's definitely worthwhile to hear a little bit of his Torah. Really, it has a tremendous impact on you in many different ways. Okay, page 231. So. Amidah Bizman Tefillah. So the Gemara, the Midrash actually starts source number 1. The Midrash says in Psikta de Zutra, Tefillah Mu'umad, we have to daven standing. Why? Dichtiv Asher Amad Sham et Pnei Hashem. That when a person speaks and encounters God, you have to stand. And by the way, when you spoke to Aharon Lichtenstien, it just occurred to me, you spelled that you're speaking you spelled that you're speaking to someone, you trembled before you spoke to him. He's one of those, you didn't just go over to him and shoot the breeze. He wasn't that type of person. He really lived his life, Omed Lifnei Hashem. He felt that way constantly. And when your person davens, you have to be more cognizant, which is why you see everywhere, right? People write Shivit Yashem Tamid by the Stender, by the Bima. There's no question that's the mindset that a person has to be. And the Rambam in Hilchot Tefillah says there are 8 things that a person has to do. Be very careful about. They're not ma'akev. This will be important. Standing is not ma'akev. What are these 8 things? The second line there's Amidah, Nochach HaMikdash. So you have to be Nochach, like parallel or facing towards, I guess, right? The Mikdash, V'tikun Haguv, which generally the commentators, the Mefarshim say in terms of you don't have to go to the washroom, or V'tikun HaMabushim, your attire, your clothes have to be dignified. V'tikun HaMakom, the place can't be, smelly or whatever. V'ashvat HaKol, you have to be able to hear yourself daven. I think that's what that one means. And also you have to bow at various places in time as well. So specifically we're going to focus on Amidah, which is number 2. What does it mean? Ein mitpalel ela ba'mumad. What about if a person is sitting? And again, we touched on this a few weeks ago. What about if a person is sitting on an airplane, sitting on a wagon, or sitting on a boat? Okay, so if you're able to stand, great. If not, then you just daven the way you are. Now, the Torah says, what is the reason for why you have to stand when you daven? Why do you have to stand when you daven for? Right way. You can't talk to God. You don't learn. You can learn when you're sitting. Why do you have to stand? So the Torah feels that it's based on the connection, the nexus between korbanot and tefillah. Why? Tefillah b'makom hakorban dichtiv v'nishalma prince fatenu uchtiv lavda b'chol avavchem v'yechi yesh avodah shebalev. Ask the Gemara in Brachos, right? Ella ezo kish avodah shebalev have omer zot tefillah. What is davening? That is right. What is a modern day avodah? That is considered tefillah, and therefore tzarich lizeher shetei dugmat hakorban. But kavana, you have to have kavana. Just like you bring a korban, you have to know what korban you're bringing. You want to bring a chatash, you want to bring an olah, whatever. You have to know what you're doing. So too by davening, you have to have intent. You have to have purpose. Right? We spoke of this already a few times. Just know you're speaking to God. Right? That's the baseline type of kavana that you need. What about you think of something else? So if you have another machshava acheret, k'mo machshava sheposel b'kochim, and that's a problem by davening. U'me'umad dumya da'avodah. Why? Standing is the serving the avodah. Dichtiv la'amod sharet. By the way, this is also mentioned, and I was reading it now, so I don't have time to look it up, but I believe also by Sfrat Omer, why we stand by Sfrat Omer. So also, so the Gemara, I don't know if it's the Gemara actually, I think it might be later, the Gaonim, the Rishonim say, Bikama, right? That you stand, but the stock of wheat, it was standing. So that's one of the reasons why we stand. One of the reasons that are mentioned is because it's Dumya Davoda as well. Dumya Tefillah, Dumya Davoda, by Sfrat Omer, another reason why perhaps we stand. So, okay, now this is fascinating. And there's a comparison to where the Kohanim would stand. Now, there's a Yerushalmi which mentions that when the Kohanim would do the Avodah, they put their feet not next to each other, like we do B'Shem Ezra, but like perpendicular to each other. That can't be so comfortable. I don't know exactly how they do that. Yeah. Like a line, right? You'll see in a minute. So the kaveh makom kamo karbanot. I could be kaveh makom, just like your kaveh by shchita as well. There should be nothing between you and the kir, right? Ideally, or you and the karka. Same idea. Why by the Torah mentions that a chatzitza is also posela between a person. So
between you and
you should ideally daven with nothing in between you and the wall. Now, what about in a room like this? So the answer is anything which is considered regular furniture is batal. So anything which is a chair or table, which is usually found there, is considered not a hesed between you and the karka, or a stand, or anything which is usually found in a shul, or a person, right? But things, let's say that aren't just placed there for the moment should be removed. Let's say a person has a bag. Let's say you shouldn't daven in front of a bat, right? Let's say you have your a suitcase, right? A suitcase. I think that's a good example. A suitcase isn't usually found. So you're davening with the suitcase.
Place you don't want to keep it in front of you, so you
So put it next to you.
And if you're in the airport, suitcase is usually found.
Right? No, but that's not part of the. Yeah, your suitcase. I don't think it's usually found at the airport.
Even if you put it
you could be.
You put it next to you. I think it's sufficient. I think according to FDA rules or whatever the.
You can't leave it on it.
In front of you? What?
Can't leave it on
No, but you can put it next to you. It's sufficient. I think next to you is the dean of not being unattended. I think so. Yeah, I'm not saying you do anything illegal.
Like being airport security, yeah, it's still attended.
Yeah, I think next to you is considered sufficient. Yeah.
As long as you can say, "Hey, that's why I don't take it."
Right. Yeah, but there's no question.
Comes over, you're just like.
So the Mishnah Berurah actually, what does he say here? Take a look at 4. So you Mishnah Berurah quotes the Darkei Moshe, right? The Ramah, Mahariya, which is right the classic Minhag Ashkenaz. Hayanaheg la'amod b'shachrit tefillah yurched matai shitchil hashatz tilo sekol. I think you see in the Article Siddur. I think right it says no. Stand here. I think it says that. Yeah, am I right? You've seen it before. Stand here. What's that based on? It's based on this Mahariya, that's Minhag Ashkenaz. Now, b'minch meaning again. Just like you don't just go into Shana, you have to stand, you have to prepare yourself before the Amidah. So you stand a little bit before. What's the definition of a little bit before? So that's Tehilot Lekel Elyon. What about B'mincha? B'mincha Kshiyared Hashatz Ifnei Teva. Now this is very interesting. What exactly is referring to?
could be Kaddish.
So probably I think it means we have Kaddish, because by Ashrei really you should sit down. Ashrei Shevetecha Ojo Luchasel, you should sit down by Ashrei. Uba Arvi you should tell Shatz Kaddish. And by Arvi when the Shatz begins Chatzi Kaddish, which is already in the middle of Marav.
If Teva means Kaddish, why?
So I thought that too. I know. So it could be they said Ashrei to themselves. It wasn't part of the Teva. And remember, it's right in the beginning.
Again,
so.
you could still just say Kaddish.
Yeah, I know.
It's a Teva called Kaddish. It's Kaddish called Teva.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Usually it means when he goes up to start start davening. So
what about?
but I just don't want to say that because actually you have to stay sitting down. That's
What
right.
about what about the?
But that's not. Maybe he argues in the minhag of sitting down.
I know Nusach Florida has Korbana beforehand.
Yeah, but that they just
stand
mumbled.
for Korbana.
What was that?
They stand for
This
Korbana.
is what people do.
So it could be.
You know what's interesting?
No, but it could be.
I haven't seen anyone. The
Ram
Rambam doesn't write. Everyone says you sit for Korbana. It's interesting. Yeah. The Rambam says you sit for Korbana.
You sit for Korbana.
You sit for Korbana.
And you
Even in Shachris?
Yeah.
Isn't it like we just said, like it's
I know.
Avoda.
I know you're right, but
So you definitely think that
I've never. I mean, I have not familiar with the source that says you stand for Korbana in the morning.
People
I'd
do
always
usually
thought that.
stand when they say.
They say?
Korbana, Kilu, Kravda.
It says so. It says to stand.
I don't know if it says to stand.
I don't know. I think it might in mine.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I don't know. That's
Maybe it says
what I
like
thought.
it's custom.
That's what I think that like that your definitiva is like when you're going to begin like when they're going to start
Davening.
Start davening.
Okay, so
Then
maybe.
you could have just said that when you start davening.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, fine. V'gam yasir as kochov v'nyav v'kol davar mitzvah b'chshav. And also, you remove anything that's going to, shall we say, confuse you, or whatever. Now, not only can a person, not only the person must stand, but also a person can't lean, right? So, what is leaning? 5. Nirashish lizhershol lismach atzma lamod o chavro b'shat tefillah. You can't lean on anything or another person when you're davening. What's the tradition of leaning? That if it would be removed, you would fall over. Right? You stumble, you fall over. Right? So if a person is standing and they place their hand a little bit like this on a chair, they're not going to stumble. Right? But if a person is leaning like this on a table and you'd buckle over, that'd be a problem. Also by video as well. On Rosh Hashanah, sorry, Yom Kippur, not Rosh Hashanah. On Yom Kippur, when you do video, you also can't say it leaning. So. You're fine, right? Because if you're leaning, you're not really standing. It's interesting. Why is it? And I was thinking with this from a shkafic perspective. Why is it that Shemona Esrei needs to be done standing? Why can't it be done leaning? Why can't it be done sitting? It's not ma'akev, right? You don't have to daven again. You still daven mincha or shachris, right? But why is it? So I think the answer is very simple. And by the way, contrast this to our cousins. When they quote unquote pray, they're on the ground. So maybe to some extent, when you want to amida, when you speak to God, stand like a man. Bend over, humility. You bow in the beginning and the end. Okay? But the rest of the time you stand. Meaning, there's this notion of you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Right? And I think that's an important hashkafic statement. That when you speak to the Ribono Shel Olam, it's true, there's a sense of humility, there's a sense of anivut, but there's also a sense of I have an ability to talk to God, and that's an amazing thing. The ability to speak to the Creator of the world.
It's like a dual relationship, Makenu, but also Avinu.
Right, exactly. And I think that's there isn't this, whereas, and I think it's very interesting to contrast it to our cousins, right? Our cousins who are totally like shmatas, like literally on the shmata, right? In terms of their prostration, it's a complete sense of submission. Not the case when it comes to Judaism. When it comes to our prayer, at the height of our prayer, no, we stand. Right? And we can't lean, we have to stand, be independent. So. Okay. But again, even the bowing, that's a fraction of a moment, right?
I'm saying all of their davening is
right. Okay. And again, so the Shulchan Aruch also mentions that you can't lean, you can't, he says if you smicha, it's not considered important. Okay, fine. And that's what he said here. Here he says it right here, the Shmisha Bru in the second line in number 7. The hainu shesomech b'miktzad. How about if you lean a little? Shim yinatal oto davar lo yipo shari. Oh, that's where he says it. That if you remove the item, you wouldn't fall. That's permissible. V'yesh omrim hatam. What's the reason? Tetzricha liot be'ema. V'lefi zeh b'chol gavne aser. And some people say, no, really, you should really not even do any type of leaning whatsoever, because there has to be a sense of aim. I guess if you're leaning, I guess it's considered. You never speak to, the prime minister like this, right? Like leaning on something. It's not considered dignified when you speak in a court, right? It's like considered very like lackadaisical, right? If you like lean in like this, it's not considered appropriate posture in a professional sense, right? You give a presentation. What was that?
So everyone always says it, but who's actually stood in front of the president? I don't know.
You don't know.
I mean, I haven't stood in front of the president.
Maybe he'd be like, come, let's
let's hang out. Let's masubin.
Yeah.
Let's masubin.
Big touches in the Oval Office.
Yeah. So,
Well,
but right, Aharon Lichtenstien used to when he was younger, he used to play. He used to shoot hips with his students. So then obviously if you're sick, you're allowed, and if you're sick and you can't do it, obviously you'd be allowed to. Number 8, that's what basically a person who's ill needs to do that, and again a person who's traveling needs to do it again. Okay, this is a very important topic. What about walking in the middle of Shon Esrei? So take a look 2/3 of the way down. Halicha be'emtza Shon Esrei. Mikom makom. Hakesher dvarim b'siman tzadalid mora shechavat amida b'tfilah kshura chavat l'rakez et hakavana. Standing during davening is also about kavana. When you stand, your kavana is enhanced. Therefore, l'chein kamishibura b'malkom shebo yishno dvarim a tree that kavanat shadam. Let's say something is bothering you. There's a noise, there's a sound, there's a baby, there's whatever is going off. Your cell phone. Mutar lo lalachet makom acher. You can actually go somewhere else. Maybe people are talking in shul, right? If people are bothering you, there's a noise that's bothering you, disturbing you. You actually could pick up in the middle of Shon Esrei and go somewhere else. Afilu be'emza tfilat amida kedei shechol lamshich l'chaven karoi. It is not hefsek. You don't have to start from the beginning. You just pick up where you left off. You might finish the bracha.
What if it's clearly ruining everyone else's, but not necessarily yours?
Again, kavan is very specific. Right? Like some people are able to block out the noises better than others. Some people can be more focused.
No, right.
It's subjective.
But my point is that this halacha, it's on you. So like you can say, oh, it's not bothering me, but it's clearly bothering everyone else.
No. So again, there's other people. Let's say you have a cell phone and it's not on vibrate. I'm sure you've never encountered that before, right? But so when it's on you, it's easiest. Reach into your pocket, shut it off. But what happens if, let's say, your cell phone is on the table here and you're standing over there, but you're diving for the amud, right? That's going to be quite difficult. So I've seen this before, where someone else shuts off someone else's cell phone. I've seen that before. You've seen what? Where someone else has shut off someone else's cell phone, left on the table, and they were somewhere else.
Makes sense,
right? So. But what you need to do is you need to go out or whatever, walk over to your phone, shut it off. So let's say it doesn't bother you. Although I have a feeling it's your phone. If it's your phone that goes off in front in Minyan, you're covering a shot because you're pretty embarrassed.
No, I know stories. One of the shows in the area was Yom Kippur a few years ago.
No way.
No, it wasn't a phone, but it was a baby. Right?
Oh, okay. That took your story from here, instantaneously dropped it.
News.
Baby and the rabbi and whatever, and people were like, you should
take your kid out. For sure.
And the guy's like, no, it doesn't ruin my kavan. I can stay in.
So the rabbi took it?
No, the rabbi's like, he's right.
But why?
No, if we're not those kavanah
people. Wait, by what we just said, I could take someone else's kid and remove them from...
I mean, here's the problem. If you take someone else's kid, A, it could be illegal,
and you try to turn them off.
And B, the kid's not going to stop some stranger. I mean, that's like an uncle or something.
Unless you lock him outside.
How can you say he's right, though? If you're disturbing other people, that's ridiculous.
No, I know.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe.
Sorry?
You're disturbing other people, you have to remove something.
Well, that's not what happened, but...
Okay.
Who's wrong?
I don't know, this is very practical for sure.
It's just not.
No, it's very practical for sure. I see kids all the time. I've seen it before.
Kids, what about regular adults who are just
talking loud? Well, no, I'll tell you when that happens. It happens if you finish, you're taking longer, they finish, and they're schmoozing.
Yeah.
And they're literally right next to you. Yeah. I mean, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
Every day.
Daily.
Usually, most Friday nights.
I never davened in a minyan on Shabbos where people speak.
I'm saying
it definitely happens.
When you're out of town. When you're out of town.
The
rare occasions that you were somewhere else.
Definitely happens.
The problem is, though, there's nowhere to go.
No.
Can you go outside?
Can you go in the hallway?
No.
Go to the bima, stand in front of the Aharon Kodesh. No one's talking in front of the Aharon Kodesh. Walk over, go up in the main show, walk all the way up to the front, stand right there, guarantee no one's going to talk to you.
Actually, I would actually guarantee that somebody would come up and talk to you.
But if you're next to people who are actually talking and you're in the middle of Shon Esrei and you actually leave, that would be like a...
Modim, I'm leaving.
I don't know, maybe they get people to stop because they've actually realized they're like...
Disturbing somebody.
You start from the beginning or you just...
No, pick up where you left off.
People know
We'll see it in a second.
It's one thing when someone actually makes a point to be like, hey look, you're actually disturbing me and you leave.
No, I've seen people give people stares. It doesn't really help.
It doesn't help.
Doesn't help.
You stare.
There was...
Yeah, why don't you say something? Yeah.
Oh, no, but yesterday there was... I was here later and there were these two people learning, like playing they were learning, and they were like screaming. There was one guy turned around and like yelled at them to stop talking. People, well, he didn't yell. He's like, there were like 4 people still davening, and they were like yelling. The guy who was close to me was like trying to shush them, but they couldn't hear because they were yelling. And then some guy turned around and he's like, "Can you please be quiet?"
Was you davening?
No, it was after davening. People were davening.
Right. Yeah. So that's what's interesting. This is this is base medrash,
But they weren't learning.
There's a difference between
They're just
learning.
yelling about something, and he's like, "Oh no, we're learning." I'm like,
There's a difference between learning and having the book open in front of you and yelling about other things.
Okay. Mishabur conclude. Did we read this Mishabur yet? Oh, this is a very good example. I really like this example. Nafal sefer ala aretz v'neichol lechavein. Let's say you're davening and a sitter or a chumash falls on the ground.
That happens.
Mutar lahagbio. You're allowed to pick it up.
What if it's thrown?
Kishayim habracha kishu midba. Finish a bracha and pick up the sefer. Again, if it's bothering you. V'lavachi lo yafsi. It doesn't bother you. So you're not. So here's the thing: you're not obligated to pick it up.
Why would that bother you?
Let's say something like, "Oh my god," you know what I mean? It's like a mevaza. I feel it's a
Falls like-
bizu. It's a
Upside down with
bizayon.
the
I
piece
think
like
most
coming
people
off.
would say, "Oh no, there's a sitter on the ground. I would pick it up." But like,
After daven. No, you're Moshe.
right, but it's not like I don't know how many.
Nothing can
people
break-
actually
nothing
are,
can break my concentration.
breaking their-
So that's what's very subjective. That's where the subjectivity is involved here, right? It's a subjective statement. What distracts you and what
Wait, is it that
hinders
it's
your
distracting
ability?
that it's there, or that it's. A
It seems
sitter on
to
the
say
ground?
that Eino Yochol Lechavin.
Right. If that's not the case, meaning that it doesn't bother you, so finish davening.
You have a like a safer on the ground or something. That bothers you, or the fact that there is anything on the ground bothers you.
The safer.
It could be either one. Not necessarily that it's a safer.
Here's what's interesting.
Maybe it bothers you.
What happens if you have your cell phone and you're expecting a very important email or text? Someone landed, news, information, and you're bzz. Sorry, you don't hear that. You feel that. You feel the vibrate.
You also hear it.
And you also hear it, right? Now, all of a sudden, you're like, wait a second. Is that the news I'm waiting for? Let's say it's good news. Let's say it's bad. Let's say someone's sick that you know about, that you want to hear about. Someone just had an operation. So, obviously, if that's the case, you'd be allowed to even look at it. This way, it'll be because otherwise, if it ruins your kavanah, now you're not able to daven.
Yeah, but chances are, if this is such important,
I'm saying it's really important.
if it's that important, when you look at it, that will distract you. Like, let's say it's good news or bad news. You're going to be thinking about the good news or the bad news that it happened.
Or you can channel it into your...
Right.
Or again, it's very subjective, but like I think for
This
most
whole thing
people,
is
if it's such a you're waiting for someone to land or something, or
Right, but that's not that important.
Like
Landing.
fine, not like someone's ill or someone's having a baby.
I'm more
or
like
something.
ill, right?
Or something like that.
Someone's having a baby,
That's something that you'd actually be thinking about.
Or like the results of the
if you
draft
heard it.
lottery. Right.
Yeah, something like that. The important thing in life.
First writers on.
So again, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that I'm not saying there's reason to look at a cell phone for davening, but I think that one could, there's room to say, again, on a Tuesday morning, there's a idea here which is I think very important, and that is kavanah is so important. If there's something that's ruining your kavanah, again, that's very easy to mitigate.
Yeah.
So mitigate it. And then go back to davening. I think that's the idea here. Okay, v'chein. V'kosh again. She'ein likrot be'emtza v'yetzeh b'shad tefillah.
Be'etzba.
I don't think the two.
Meaning, you shouldn't this. That's what it means, right? You shouldn't in the krot be'emtza. You shouldn't.
You're talking about be a distraction to
Be a
others.
distraction, right?
Like those guys who like when they're davening.
Don't no. What he's trying to say is don't you're still not allowed to wave and point.
Meaning, like, is this connected to what they just said, like to what was said before? Meaning, to give direction to people, to do something instead.
Right. I mean, it doesn't. Meaning, not only is talking a problem, right? But you still can't hand motion.
It's kind of like a weird place, to put it. If it's personal kavana, and then
Rabbi Smith said that.
trying to
They
mitigate.
don't do if you're
Rabbi Smith does that. He, a lot of times,
but that's for davening.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This
Don't.
make a left.
Oh, that's for. Oh, okay.
Right. But don't.
Non-
Anything which is going to distract your davening, you're not allowed to do. Let's say you start again. No one's ever had this before, right? You start davening, and last thing you know is you're on V'lo Malshinim,
And you're done.
But the problem is it's Friday night, right? Right. You never do the Slach Lanu on Shabbos. You're like, I'm just stretching, right? Right? You're like,
I'm doing the Heimlich.
So
Shabbos probably 1,000.
So,
Did you ever get to Tachanun?
no, Tachanim? No, I don't think I did.
No, just a Tachanun. Sometimes, yeah.
So, if let's say you get and get mixed up, mutar leilach lemakom hayadu alo likacha misham siddur. You could even go and go get a siddur again.
Just start from the beginning?
Depends what.
Or just start from...
What if
It depends which tefillah. Like it doesn't come from Musaf.
Wait, let's say you're at. I mean, I said it for a joke for a Shabbos thing.
No,
But Shabbos is very different. So,
Because Shabbos has its own halacha.
right, Shabbos is different than a weekday.
Right.
Meaning, if it was a weekday, and you know you're up to Yerushalayim Yerchai, but in Yerushalayim, and you can't remember the next bracha is in Yerushalayim, you start and you go into Tzlachalaim, you can't remember what it is, so stop, go get a siddur, and say Etzemach David.
For Shabbos, let's say you say...
So Shabbos is very interesting. Shabbos is the difference between Shachri, Marv, Shachri, Musaf, and Mincha. So the first two tefillot, if you actually start saying Atachonen, you actually finish the bracha. It's not aser to say Atachonen on Shabbos.
Right.
God, don't give me das. Right?
You finish and then you go back.
They say, right, you finish it, then you go back to, right, Yismach Moshe, or whatever it is, right? But for Musaf, you don't. You just kill it.
You just kill it.
Because there's it's just nothing.
I thought it mattered on your kavanah, like whether you were actually saying with kavanah or whether you're just saying it like mumbling it. So I heard that.
In what sense? That if you're just...
If you're just saying it because like lip service, like you're not even thinking about what you're saying, it's just coming.
Oh, then it's nothing.
Then it's nothing even in the first two tefillos.
So what do? You just stop.
It's nothing anyway.
No, that's what I heard. Yeah.
What do you mean?
Avot?
No, meaning
No, like Shachrit and
it's just coming out.
You're not like
actually
actually
having
thinking
kavanah.
about it.
Yeah, I mean if you're having kavanah, then I heard you just like finish it.
Finish it. If you don't have kavanah, you don't finish it?
That's what I heard.
Yeah, okay, could be. Okay. All right, we'll get there. I don't know when, but okay. Basically, go get a siddur. The last, we'll end with this, number 11. Ami Palav Yitchil HaTelephone L'Tzaltzel, or Mekishim Badelet. Again, why you have a door, I'm not quite sure at home, but okay, right? Or Shtibu Vehemti Ma'at. So you stop, you pause, and just not stopping. The phone's ringing. Mechamat Kenina Musugal Chavim Batfila Yelech V'Yasir HaShofar. What's a shoferet? Shoferet is a handle, the telephone receiver, right? So that's a good word. What's that in the world of cell phones, right? Oh, Yiftach Hadalat, or you open the door. Now here's the challenge: Mibli Lavsig B'Dibur, because Dibur is hefsek. Walking there to stop the distraction is not hefsek. Okay, so it's an important chiluk there.
But you're also not allowed to make hand gestures.
Right. So again, you need to, shall we
You
say?
hit people.
So
No,
you
seriously.
open the door. You open the door. Have you ever someone try to call you and you're benching? I don't mean call on the telephone. I mean call like in the house.
Yeah.
So then what do? You just bench out loud, very loud, and they realize you're
There's also
benching.
calling, you pick up the phone, not telephone.
No, I just ignore them.
Really? No, for benching, I've done
I mean, sometimes
I've done that if it's like my mom or something.
Sometimes in
But I usually ignore them.
in yeshiva, if a roommate or if a roommate was missing in davening, then I just like call them from my makom, so they'd hear what was going on at the
Put it on
time.
speakerphone.
Yeah.
But it's written there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there you go. All right, fine. Then you get davening. Last but not least, tinok or yelet hamafrim biyotel dechaven batfila. Mutar l'rmos lahem kadesh tekam. So the first thing you do is you are allowed to motion to them to stop talking, right? Shh, whatever the case is. K'shedavar lo ho'il. That's level 1. Level 2, yitrachek mehem. Walk away from them. That is usually not going to work. No, by walking away from them, they're just going to follow you. Your kids aren't going to.
Oh, that is a person. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to help.
Small people.
Yeah, so I don't think walking away is going to help. In the Varv Shari, mutar af lagesher lahashkitam. You could even lahashtikam. Sorry, you could even silence them. Aval lo l'sibudibor. But we see here that talking is a much bigger hefsek than hand motion or even walking.
What's the difference between your Moslahem, Kidei Lashikam, and like getting them to be quiet? It's the same thing, no?
No, but one
What
is
are you
the
gonna
hand,
do
one could be
different?
hand motions and one could
One could be shush.
So the first one would be shh, for this, because you can't make a hand motion then.
maybe the second one.
What's the first one?
The first one it says to like hint for them to be quiet, and then the second one is to like, I guess, engage with them and be quiet.
You might think that you can't make the
talk.
hand motions.
No,
because you can't-
l'rmos lahem is while you're standing, your feet are together, and you just do this to your kid.
Or
Like 1 second.
this, or-
So again, it also depends on the age of the kid, right? If the kid's 6 months old, doing that ain't gonna help, right?
But like, wait,
Should be
going
with-
like this or like, so then saying shh would be
That's not speech.
getting them to,
I don't think,
like, that
is
would
it?
be mutar af lagesha ulash tikam.
Right. That means you could even walk. Let's say the
Oh,
kid.
that's, moving around.
I mean, you know, it'd be super embarrassing if while you're davening here, your kid goes over to the seaboard and starts pulling out his talis. You know what I mean? That'd be
Or
pretty
tying
bad.
it.
Oh, so you can go
Or tying him. So,
Okay.
so that'd be example.
Oh, so the first one could be like shh or this, and the other one's like actually going
Walking around, right? I think that's what he's saying.
Putting his leash on.
Right, exactly.
Over
So-
right?
Yeah, I've done my share of having to remove kids during davening. Okay, have a terrific Tuesday, everyone.